talking about your book, I see that it's a spooky book, and there are some horror elements. There's this cute character in it, and what were your influences like growing up? What kind of literature did you read? What kind of comics were part of your childhood?
So I had a pretty typical 90s childhood. Just
Okay.
like Goosebumps and and Samurai Jack. Uh, but yeah, there was a lot of, even though I do comics right now and I love writing and stuff like that, a lot of my childhood influence has come from television,
Hmm.
right? I really want to be that person who's like, I grew up on books, but I really didn't. Like, I read books, but I grew up on television. I read books, I read comic books, I liked it, but the majority of my time was spent in front of Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon and stuff like that. Um, and so there was a lot of influence from there. Just everything I watched, whether it's like um, American cartoons like Dexter's Lab, or Samurai Jack, or
Yeah, those were the
Powerpuff Girls,
classics.
and all the classics, and even sort of Eastern anime, things like that. I've watched like what 900 episodes of One Piece. I've like committed to a lot of anime stuff as well. And on the other side, films,
I
right?
do see a lot of anime influences in your work as
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
there's anime as well, but there are parts of anime that I feel like it's just like so overdone now. like,
Yeah.
like there are some things in typical anime. Like if you just had to imagine like a caricature of anime, some of those hairstyles and eye styles and all that, I'm just like, no, we can't do this in 2019. Just let's just move on from it.
Yeah, I do feel that it's a bit overdone
Yeah,
now.
exactly. And so if I had to draw like that anime eyes, I would just like, I mean, I couldn't live with myself. So that's why, and because it's you end up getting, so India is interesting because like we have our own stuff, right? There is Indian stuff,
Yeah.
but a lot of us, maybe just circumstantially, grew up with a lot of outside stuff
Hmm.
as well, right? Maybe people. I visited Japan recently, and like they tend to grow up with their own stuff.
Yeah.
Like they get sort of affection for those things that are made in Japan and
Yeah,
like
of course,
those
they have
anime,
their
and
own
they have
identity.
this sort of thing, right? In America as well, America is sort of like this. They know about stuff that goes on in Europe, but they don't really know about the other stuff.
Yeah.
And like they're mostly whatever American media gets made, they consume and then they grow up on that. But in India, you sort of get everything. You end up reading some like French things like Tintin and Asterix and all that
Yeah,
are
yeah.
very famous in India, but they're French.
Yeah.
So you get like that influence. Then you get American influence, obviously, from all these cartoons and Archies and
Yeah.
Garfields and all these famous things there. And then you get Eastern influence as well because anime is pretty big in India as well,
It is, yeah.
right? And so a lot of Indian kids end up growing up with this like mixed aesthetic, which is an interesting thing. When releasing this book, I was trying to very confidently say that it was an Indian
Hmm.
comic book, right? And a lot of people were saying, oh, Manek, when you say Indian comic book, it's not really mythology. It doesn't really look Indian. There are no
Yeah.
like temples. I don't like, but that is not like that doesn't make you an Indian comic book. What makes it an Indian comic book is that Indian people worked on it,
Yeah.
and like the aesthetics that Indian artists have grown up with have gone into that product,
Hmm.
right? Where it can be a story about anything, right? It doesn't have to be
Based
about
in
the
India.
Mahabharata or something like
Yeah.
that to be an Indian thing, and that's what I like. I'm enjoying seeing more and more very Indian products, comics and graphic novels and series that are not trying to constantly prove that they're Indian by like these things,
I mean, if you
right?
look at it that way, most of the Hollywood projects are being worked on in India.
That's
So,
true.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's just the fact that an Indian is doing work on it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you have to stick to, the
Yeah, yeah.
authenticity of a
Exactly.
particular
Yeah.
country or,
Yeah,
anything like
and it's
that.
happening even with larger like series and movies and stuff like that, Sacred Games and like Gully Boy and all this is like cultures that are outside of India being brought to India and made Indian,
Yeah.
right? And that's really cool. That's you can't say that it's not Indian. It's hip hop, but it's Indian.
Yeah.
Like so, and that's similar to what is happening in illustration and storytelling and stuff like that with comics.
I see that there's a slow growth in the number of artists and contributors. I mean, even though the growth is a little gradual, I see that there is this whole community vibe to it. Like there are artists who always have each other's backs. And how important do you think this is?
So, a lot of illustrators, I'll just put this out there. You spend a lot of time alone in your room drawing, working for people, and you get used to that.
Yeah.
Which is fine, right? You don't want to talk to anyone. You can just like draw. Nobody will bother you. But um, speaking personally, I have met so many cool people and learned so much from just the interactions that I've had with everyone, and that I really can't say that I could have been the artist that I am today just sitting in a room and drawing. Me personally. Um, and so and the more I talk to people, the more I see that they've also gotten that sort of like input from different artists, different people in different businesses, uh, to improve their work either artistically or on the business side, improve their practices, improve how they deal with clients, things like that. And finally, um, even as a freelancer, illustration is a profession, right? And
Yeah.
so it does have things to learn about how the profession works itself, how the industry treats that, how clients view all illustrators, all that sort of comes into play. And because because the industry as a whole, even though each person is acting individually, they're sort of affected by what the overall thing is. Um, to give you an example, if 99 people are quoting a certain amount for something, one person will have a hard time quoting anything different from that thing, right? And that's what I mean by like, even though you are an individual, you are affected by what goes on in everyone else's uh, careers as well. And so it makes a lot of sense since I don't know, a lot of illustrators and artists seem to get along just naturally. Just
Because we understand each other's pain.
yeah, I mean, you're already in the same field, and like you've often grown up reading things, watching things. You have a lot in common as well, and so like um, that learning from each other of like, oh, I had this experience with this sort of job once, and like it taught me this kind of stuff. That insight that somebody may tell you may take you like 3 years to find out if you had to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Right, and so that pooling of knowledge is super important, and that's what a community is, and that's what it does. It sort of strengthens the even though you may be working individually, you're a freelancer, you don't have any like other people to depend on, that's totally fine. But because you're in the illustration industry, and you're affected by everyone else in the illustration industry, it's great to be able to talk to people and just openly like discuss things. Um, that grows the artist community, and that grows the sort of illustration profession,
Yeah.
right? It's just to be more of a profession and actually, work towards sustainable jobs and things like that.
Yes.
Right?
I think for it's very important for any sort of a community or a movement to to be taken seriously, it's very important for us to be united,
Yeah.
or at least like know of each other's presence
Yeah, yeah.
or
And I
existence.
think that happens already. Like artists are very sort of open to as soon as I'm asked about like, oh, do you know like this certain style or whatever. If you haven't been connected to artists, then you just say no.
Yeah.
But if you have, then you're like immediately it triggers something, and you're like, oh my gosh, this person, you need to talk to this person because they're amazing
Yeah.
at this thing, right? And so like all these other connections happen that may or may not involve you, but like just the fact that you're making other connections also happen just helps everyone.
Exactly.
And then
Yeah.
that person may meet someone and then they'll be like, oh, you should talk to Manek or whatever. Um, and it just ends up being less lonely as a job, right? Because you're interacting with other people who are also doing the same thing. And it's great. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. And thank you so much, Manik. Congratulations and
Thank you.
all the best with your
Thank
future
you.
issues.
Thank you.
And I hope to see more of these issues. And
Yeah,
I hope
yeah.
to have you again on the next episode of
I'd
Comics
love to
Over
be there.
Coffee. Whenever you have the next issue out,
100%.
call me.
5 years from now. Sorry, 50 years from now. I have no clue. These things take so long.
Yeah. Take care, buddy.
Bye,
Thanks a
man.
lot, man. Thank you.